Article 51A of the Indian Constitution lists out the fundamental duties of every citizen of India. That article says that it is the duty of every citizen of India to develop a scientific temper and to have a spirit of inquiry and reform. So it is in this spirit of inquiry enjoined on me under the fundamental duties of the Constitution that I speak as a citizen of this country. I refer to the deaths that occurred on January 29 at the Maha Kumbh Mela venue, and the death of 18 people, mostly women, in New Delhi railway station as they were waiting to board the train to the Kumbh Mela spot. In both these cases, the authorities were reluctant to come out with the number dead. Human lives don't count in India very much. So at first there was reluctance in both the cases to acknowledge that people had died. And after some reluctance, when reports were coming in from the hospitals in the first case, and later when porters were carrying bodies on handcarts at the New Delhi railway station, the authorities had to admit that people had died. This was one common factor in both the cases, that the reluctance of the authorities to even acknowledge that people had died stood out. There was also another aspect to it, and that is that most of them said, and this would probably hold good for the whole tribe of politicians, both at the government level and at the opposition level, that this was an unfortunate incident. The word unfortunate, the soft word, seems to be a favorite of politicians, because then they would be able to wriggle out of any allegation that they were hard or their comments were hard on this very sensitive aspect of Indian life, namely that we are all religious and this should not in any way hurt our religious feelings. Let us look back at this whole thing and see how all this came about. There was so much of hype about this event, and there was a religious frenzy that was whipped up by the government, which was the main host, I think, to this event. Both at the state level, the government of Uttar Pradesh, both at the state level and at the level of the government of India, this event was hyped up to the extent of a religious frenzy, and parallel to that was a political frenzy that was evident. this combination of religion and politics everywhere is not a good development at all. It is not a combination that is envisaged in our Constitution. These two should remain separate. Now, contrary to that, the state was playing up the fact that 45 crore people would come at the spot. Just imagine, 45 crore people at a spot. Therein lies the seeds of disaster, because if you do not plan properly and you only believe in the slogans that you manufacture, saying that the whole place is covered by electronic surveillance and all the rest, and everything is on a scale that is not seen hitherto, you are inviting disasters of this kind. And it is my belief that the persons who are responsible for this are none other than our politicians, who have, during the course of these years, made all this look like one, that is, religious observance and political gain. So this is how I see this thing, and the tragedy of human lives lost is something one has to reckon with, because even the loss of one life is a loss we must always think as very, very precious. So, in the light of the fundamental duties that are laid down, it is a matter of inquiry whether this in fact was something we invited upon ourselves.